I think the big shift, what we're doing with Battlefield 1 compared to, for instance, Battlefield 4, is the artistic expression of the game, where we don't want it to be just a straight off simulation, but more trying to make it more visceral and more immersive by dialing things up and down a bit to make it have more oomph, okay. So to speak. When you play the game, you will kind of feel what I mean. Okay. It's a really visceral experience, and there's a lot of small details that you will pick up on that makes a huge impact to the experience. One of the cool things with Battlefield 1 and the classes is that we actually cleanse them quite a bit, so they're quite pure in what they do, what benefits they have, but also giving them more depth and more team play abilities. So the medic you will like, I hear, yes. Because it will do exactly what you want it to do from your playstyle. We also put more emphasis on team play actions in general, so if you will not only get score from killing, you will get quite a bit of points from actually doing squad related actions. So it's more about power and charging and how you kind of traverse the environment. So we put a lot of emphasis on the traversal and how to move through the terrain in a more smooth and friction-free way. When you look at things like going through doors, for instance, as a soldier, you don't have to press X to open or shoot your way through. You can actually just run through it. The air combat is something that we put quite a bit of focus on in Battlefield 1. Scaling from the scout planes to the bombers to the big airships, and the goal is of course to make them first of all, they live their own life in the sky, so you can just spend your day in the sky fighting it out. And then of course, like any Battlefield game, it's the ground-to-air combat that is important. The goal is to do a representation of what it would feel like to actually fly one of these planes. And again, these planes were actually pretty good. They weren't bad. People might think that it's just they didn't know how to make planes back then, but they did. I would say the tanks, even though they are quite different, they do have a lot of stopping power, and you probably behave in the same way when you see a tank as you would when you see an AT-AT. I think that in general the idea of creating the most dynamic battlefield ever was kind of a very clear goal from us. Before we knew anything about what the game would be, we took a big step forward with Battlefield 4 on creating these epic events. What we want to do was go away from them being a one-off event that was triggered on a specific action, but rather having them being more of a anything can happen at any time, and players will not be able to know what's in front of them. So the goal was to find all those different natural elements that could do that. Destruction is one example, like make sure that that's completely solid and works everywhere. And then on the other hand, weather is an actual factor in real life, right? You could argue that could happen in real life, which means that it's very intuitive. If weather changes, it doesn't feel like a gimmick, right? It feels like it could happen. Battlefield 1 being set in World War I was actually not a limiting factor at all. We thought it would be before we had all the facts on what World War I was actually about and what type of weaponry and vehicles there was. And once we had that research done, it actually turned into a benefit, a huge benefit, because it gave us more than we could ever imagine. And rather than limiting us, it opened up for experiences that is not only based on authentic facts, but it's also something you've never done before. These guns you have never played with in any game before.